It is a Friday, and I did a story recently about the gas station that had the gas in the wrong tanks. And I mentioned that I worked at a place that had that happen one time. And many people know that I drove a tow truck for a gas station for a while I was in high school in the first year out of high school. However, it was not that gas station that happened at. It was a different gas station where I was simply a cashier. And what happened was I was working and going to school, and I couldn't get a job that worked with my schedule except at this particular gas station. So it was at 13 Mile and Woodward Avenue, for those of you in the Southeast Michigan area, right across the street from a Northwood shopping center, which is gone now, and it's part of Beaumont/Corwell's hospital complex there. And I was at the gas station, and it's still there, but it's changed owners and it's been completely redone. When I was there, it was simply a bunch of gas islands and a little place that you'd walk up and you'd talk to the person and put the money through a little slot in the window. And I just sat in there and took money and ran pumps remotely. This is before credit cards worked. And that's the important part of this story. Because what I'm talking about is the credit card working at the pump versus the cashier handling your credit card. Because there was actually a pretty bizarre thing that happened at this gas station. I'm not sure if I've told this story in its entirety on this channel. I may have mentioned it once or twice, maybe in a live stream or something. But one day I came into work and there was a commotion there. And the commotion was the woman who did the shift before me was being taken away in handcuffs. And I mentioned before that when there's the incident with the gas being switched into the wrong tanks or whatever the contamination situation was, that the manager had shown up, and I never saw the manager. I saw the manager 3 times. The day I was hired, the day they had the contaminated gas, and the day the cashier got arrested. And so I asked the manager what's going on, and he told me. And so here is the story. This was at a time when if you wanted to get gas at a gas station, you had to prepay. So if somebody would walk up the window, I need $20 on number 4. I'd say, thank you. I'd take their $20 bill. I'd go over and I'd type a little thing on a little control thing, and it would authorize that gas pump to pump $20. Do that all day long. However, if somebody had a credit card and they wanted to fill up their tank, they had to actually come up and say, I need to fill up on number 4. They'd then hand me their credit card, and I'd take the credit card and put it next to the control unit to indicate that's number 4, and I'd authorize number 4 to pump. But when they shut it off, they'd come back up. I'd take their credit card, look at the number, run it through the imprinter. They'd sign it, give them back their credit card. They'd go their way. They had their gas, and we had their money, right? That's how it's supposed to go. Turns out the woman who worked before me had figured out a little scam, and she wasn't the brightest criminal who ever existed. Someone came up and gave her their credit card. She would take their credit card, and when they went back to the pump, she'd run it through one time for $20. Then when they came back, whatever the amount was that they had used, she would run the credit card through for that amount and have them sign it. She would then look at their signature and forge the other one. And she did that a whole bunch, apparently. And she got away with it for a little while. And this is a time before your credit card statements were online and all this stuff. And so what happened is somewhere down the road is somebody apparently looked at their credit card statement and said, wait a second. According to this, I bought gas twice on the same day at this one gas station. And yes, she wasn't smart enough to change the date on the imprinter, which would have probably allowed her to get away with it more, if not entirely. However, several people spotted a double charge same day at that gas station. My understanding is, and this is what I was told by the manager, is that when somebody complained about this to the manager, instead of just pulling her aside and figuring out that it was her or whatever, they actually notified the police. And the police, and I guess they figured out who was doing it based on who had turned these things. And I don't know enough the bookkeeping. All I know is that they simply figured out it was her. And then they sent some people in, and they did the thing where they came in was nice and slow. They got pulled up to the farthest island out there, gave her a credit card, dawdled for a while, came back up, did it, and checked, and sure enough, she'd run it through. And then I believe they got a warrant and came in because they not only arrested her while she was in the booth, but they searched her car and they found all kinds of stuff in there. And the scary part, I don't know how much money she scammed anybody for. I also don't know whatever became of her, if she got convicted or pled guilty, or if it got thrown up because some fancy pants lawyer found a loophole. I have no idea. All I remember is I never saw her again, okay? And I only knew her from the 5 or 10 minutes that we interacted at our shift change. So it was like not like a big loss, like, oh, I lost my best friend. I mean, I don't even know if I knew her name. I mean, back then I probably did, but I don't now. But when they searched her car, they also found a whole bunch of unopened cigarette packs. Not the cartons, the packs. And the manager of the station told me, he goes, I'm glad we caught her because it would have become a mess later. And so when you came into the station, we sold gasoline, but we also sold some other basic stuff like windshield washer, solvent, cans of oil, but cigarettes. And there was a wall of cigarettes behind the cashier. And there was also a closet filled with cartons of cigarettes. And at the end of every shift, you counted all of the cigarette packs that were out and all of the unopened cartons in the closet. She was taking out cartons from the bottom, emptying them out, putting the carton back in, knowing that it would take a while before somebody actually reached that carton to discover it was empty. And the guy goes, when they searched her car, they came back and go, hey, there's like 50 packets of cigarettes in there. What's going on? And the manager said, uh-oh. And he went in, and sure enough, a bunch of the bottom cartons were empty. And now the interesting part about that is if they hadn't caught her when they did, and she had just quit one day I would have come in, pulled a carton out, it would have been empty. And when I told the manager, hey, that carton was empty, it's going to be like, really? Whose fault is that? And so it was interesting because they caught her and they realized the double credit card thing she'd been doing, but also the emptying out of the bottoms of the cartons of cigarettes. And so that is one of those things. And I remember it vividly because I was making minimum wage. And in fact, I'm going to poke around and see if I can find it, but I've actually got a scan that I took. I found one of the pay stubs from when I worked at that gas station. And I found it when I was digging through some stuff about a year or two ago. And I posted it someplace. I'm trying to remember where I posted it. I might be able to find it that way. But it was in the $3 and change range because it was minimum wage in the early 1980s. $3.35 maybe, something like that. And of course, the funny part was that my first job in radio paid the exact same amount. So I went from being a cashier at a gas station on Woodward Avenue to being a disc jockey at a radio station and making the exact same amount of money. Now, I'll admit it was more fun being a disc jockey, but that was the rate of pay, entry-level, small market radio in Michigan back then. So the crazy part, though, was that was the same station that had the contamination with the gas, but the bizarre part was that she had been doing that double imprinter scam. And when I went to England back in November and I hung out with my good friend David Domini Fowler, we were at a restaurant and I went to pay and I went to hand the waitress my credit card and she recoiled in horror. Like, what are you doing? And I thought, like, I wasn't trying to stab you with it. I'm trying to pay. And she goes, no. We bring the thing to your, and they brought the thing to my table to swipe and do all that. And I'm like, okay. And David goes, yeah, we haven't done that thing in years over here where you give your card to a stranger. He goes, because bad things could happen to it. And I'm like, well, I actually knew that, but it's still commonplace that at a restaurant, you'll give your credit card to the waitress and she'll walk off with it, or he'll walk off with it and come back and do it that way. By the way, I often do that thing where I correct myself on the gender of somebody in a story where it's not a real person. I say, so for instance, the police officer, if you're talking to him or her, I do that as a joke. And I actually got an extremely angry message from somebody who said, Steve, that woke thing you do where you insist on giving both genders to a pronoun is getting really tiring. And I'm getting sick of all this woke stuff you're trying to jam down our throats. It's a joke. I'm joking. And I understand not everyone gets my jokes. But when I say that, this person came up and knocked on your door and you say to him or her, I could have said, and you say to them, I could have. But somewhere a long, long time ago, it occurred to me that when you do the knee-jerk response that all waitresses are female or that all cops are men, it is kind of outdated. So I've encountered female police officers, and I've actually encountered male waiters. I have. And so when I say, and you say to her or him, I'm it's a joke. And so if you get so bent out of shape that you got to scream and yell at somebody, figuratively speaking, about a joke that he said or she, maybe you need to stop watching their videos. And by the way, I had somebody recently ask me, they go, Steve, what size t-shirt do you wear? And I had forgotten that I used to put it at the end of every single video. It said Steve wears double XL. And somebody asked me a question again yesterday, and I'm like, I thought it was in the videos, and I'd forgotten that I removed it from the videos. And the reason I had removed it is, and I always assume, and this is a bad assumption, but I always think of my audience as being the same every single day. So right now, when I'm picturing speaking to an audience, I assume it's the same audience I had last week, the same audience I had last week, the week before that. But that's never the case, actually. I'm sure there's overlap. But if I have a video that goes up against 50,000 views, but I have over 500,000 subscribers, it means 1/10 of my subscribers watched it, and also not all the viewers are subscribers. So it very well could be that I have a completely different audience each day. I don't know. But I tend to think of it as the same audience, right? Or her. I'm just kidding. And so for years, I had put at the end of my videos, Steve wears an XXL. Steve wears an XXL. Because I was always being asked, what size shirt do you wear? And I had a video that went up, and I believe it was around the time, about a little over a year ago, like 15 months ago, where I was actually traveling. That's why I remember it. And somebody sent me a note and said, hey, Steve, you were just cited in the footnote or endnote of an opinion written by a court of appeals out of Texas. And I'm like, what? I went and looked it up, and sure enough, I was. So I did a video where I told the story about how I was cited in a footnote or endnote of a legal opinion written by a court of appeals judge in Texas. And I thought it was pretty cool. And at the end of the video, I had the screen that says Steve wears an XXL. That video, for some odd reason, got all kinds of comments about, dude, you're fat. You're fat. You're obese. Dude, lose weight. And the weird part is that I would occasionally get comments from people who say, Steve, I didn't think you wore an XXL. To which I'd respond and say, well, I'm 6'2". And then people go, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were tall. I'm 6'2". I am. And so I can wear XLs, but the problem is, and I used to work for a company that sold a lot of t-shirts, that it depends on the manufacturer of the base t-shirt as to whether or not it's generously cut or not. And so I've gotten a lot of XLs that fit, and I've also got a lot that don't fit. I feel bad if somebody sends me a shirt and I can't wear it. So to be on the safe side, I'd rather wear a loose XXL than a tight XL. But the point is, I've been to doctors. I have loved ones. No one's ever said, Steve, we need to have a talk because you're morbidly obese. You need to lose all that weight. And so when I saw the comment yesterday about what size shirt do you wear, I said I wear an XXL. And I'd forgotten that I had removed that thing from the end screen because all those comments I got about how fat I am. And the weird part is that if you watch the video and you see me and it doesn't occur to you that I'm obese, then why would you, upon seeing I wear an XXL, go, oh, dude, you're obese? That seems to me to be a little bit of a disconnect. It does. But again, I should have put Steve wears an XXL, parenthetical, he's 6'2". But then some people would make some other comment about, what's your BMI? Body mass index. But my point is, I wear an XXL. If you want to send me a shirt, do that. If you send me one that's the wrong size, I'm sorry, I can't wear it. And I do wear almost every shirt sent to me. I've had a couple sent me I couldn't because they're either political, obscene, or something else. I've had some that I didn't quite understand. But if it's a place name or a school or a band, I wore a Southside Johnny shirt the other day, and I got more reaction to that shirt than any shirt I've worn in a long time. People go, "Oh my God, I love Southside Johnny." So do I. Somebody said, Hearts of Stone, I love the album. I said, so do I. So that's actually one of my shirts. It wasn't sent to me by anybody. I bought that shirt. I wear it. Love that shirt because I love Southside Johnny, who unfortunately recently retired from touring. So never saw him live. Probably never will. I saw him on TV a whole bunch. Now I can watch him on YouTube. But that's the story about what happened at the gas station years and years ago with the woman running the credit card imprinter scam. She got busted. Wasn't terribly bright. Don't know whatever became of her. And then, of course, where the end screen went saying what size T-shirt I wear. I don't know why, but that one particular video appears to have sparked this huge backlash. And I thought, screw it. It's not worth it anymore. So you can't please everyone. Although you can try to make him or her happy. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.